Hello and welcome to Buttonmouse, the Machine Knitter YouTube channel. If you find this video helpful, then please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to stay informed of when I post future uploads based on the broad topic of machine knitting, then subscribe and hit the little bell icon to receive notifications of our new content. Today I'll be sharing my process to take a pre-designed punch card from a PDF pattern, filling this pattern into a Google Sheet file, and showcase a method called conditional formatting to digitally colour in the design. In this example, I have the background main colour with one contrast colour, and in this example, I have the background main colour with two contrast colours. I'll be sharing the process for both of these examples I've just shown. To follow along, you'll need to have a Google account. This method can be helpful to plan the layout of your colour choices, which helps prevent waste paper and ink, or allows you to still be creative if you don't have a selection of colouring in materials or access to a printer. The pattern I'll be using today is the ladies' two-piece round yoke pullover. The designer is Irene Woods. You can find this free pattern on either Irene's website clearwaterknits.com or via her Facebook group Machine Knitting Round Yokes. Links will be put into the video description below. To start the process, we'll want to open up a tab. I'm currently using Google Chrome browser. Going up to the top right hand side with the Google Apps. Scroll down to select Sheets. And we're going to create a new blank spreadsheet. If you're not familiar with spreadsheet terms, this blue highlighted area is what we will call a cell. These are columns and these are rows. So what we want to do is adjust this sheet to reflect the size of our punch card. So when we look at the punch card, we can see we need 24 stitches, so that's columns, and 55 rows. So to do the stitches, we'll go along to the end of our columns here. We know A to Z letters in the alphabet, there's 26, we only need 24. So I'm going to get rid of column Y and column Z. I'm going to left click with the mouse, hold and drag from Y to Z. I'm then going to right click and select delete columns Y to Z. Coming back to the beginning, we know we want only 55 rows, so I'm going to highlight row 56 and I'm going to fast scroll down to the very bottom of this spreadsheet. It's a lot of rows. Now before I press the 1000 row, I want to press and hold the shift key first before I left click with the mouse. Shift key is the key on the keyboard with the upwards pointing arrow. So I'm going to hold shift, press with the left mouse. And now that should select the entire section of rows from 56 to 1000. I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete rows 56 to 1000. So now we can see the very bottom of our sheet is 55. And at the top we have 1. Next step will be to adjust all of the cells to an equal size. In order to select all cells, we're going to click on this area here, and then we can drag when you get this icon and adjust the column width, and we can drag when we get the icon and adjust the row height. To get this icon, you just hover over the line between each section and it should adjust to an arrow, and you can make these squares any size you like. Whilst this is still highlighted, we want to align any text that will be going into the cells. So we want to do horizontal align, and we want it all to be centered, and we want to select our vertical align to the middle. We're going to increase our font size to 14, and we're going to see how it looks when we put a dark grey font into the cells. So I think that's how I want my formatting for the cell to go. I'm going to click on one cell and input a number, click out of the cell, and I'm quite happy with how that looks, so I'm going to leave these settings as they are. If you decide that it needs adjusting, then select all and you can change things like the font, or if it maybe isn't centered the way you would like, or if your font size could be bigger, then make sure that you select all cells by clicking on this area up here. And to get rid of this, I'm going to double click and press my backspace to delete the entry from that cell. And we're now ready to have both the pattern from the PDF and our spreadsheet put side by side. To be able to put both the empty spreadsheet and the PDF pattern side by side, I'm going to select on the tab with the PDF pattern, and I want to pull it into its own window, so I'm going to left click the tab and drag down to pull it into its own window. I will restore this down, and we want to zoom in onto the punch card section and decrease the width of the window. Then we want to come back to the empty spreadsheet and restore the spreadsheet down and put this to the side. Now you can see when we restore it down, we lose the view of all of the rows. So if I move this window right over to the edge and pull this window so that it overlaps, and we're just increasing the width because it's the spreadsheet window that we'll be working on, it will stay to the front. And it's still not quite covering, so I'm going to zoom out to 90% now so that we can get the entire width in view. When we are ready to input the information, you can see here that looking at the punch card is a 6-stitch wide repeat, and it looks like it's going to be the same throughout the majority of this. So you can either work one cell area and copy and paste across, or you can work each section of the colours and then copy and paste all of the rows 6 stitches wide across to the rest of the punch card. So a quick way to input the data into the cells. So the first section is going to be placed as colour 1, and you can either click on each cell and input, or you can use the arrow keys on the keyboard to move around. What I like to do, instead of having to press the number 1 for every entry, I will click on the cell that I've filled in and right click, copy. The shortcut for this is Control C, and you can see the outline of this cell has now become a dashed line. I'm going to start selecting the rest of the cells that correspond with the black squares on the pattern. So I'm going to select this one and press and hold the Control button on your keyboard so that you can select multiple cells. You don't have to click each one individually, you can click and drag. And once you have the area selected, I'm going to Control V, which is the shortcut key for paste. You can also right click with the mouse and select paste. And this area is now filled in with the 6-stitch wide repeat. If you want to do each section one at a time, then I will select the 6-stitch wide repeat, copy, and then select by left clicking and dragging across the rest of the empty cells and Control V. And your entire area is now corresponding with the black squares with a value of 1. On to the next section, we'll do the same process. We're going to input, bear in mind that you have 2 blank rows. So we want to start on this row, and our first black square is right at the beginning. So I'm going to fill this cell with the number 2 and copy. And then I'm going to continue on in filling the rest of the information. So that's the 6-stitch wide repeat, and do that again, press and hold and Control, selecting all the squares, and paste. And I'll move on to our next row, so 2 blank, and the next pattern row, and I can see that the first square to be marked is on the 3rd row from there. So this one we're going to infill with colour 3. It doesn't have to be colour 3. When we come to do the formatting, you can format it so that this section is the same colour as the first section if you decide to have varying colours. And go through and select all of the 6-stitch wide repeat where there are black squares. We need to copy this cell first before we do that. And paste. 2 more empty rows. Here's where our next pattern starts. And I'll fill in all the way up to the top here, and I'll come back and show you how to copy and paste the 6-stitch wide repeats from all of these sections into the rest of the width of the sheet. So now all of the 6-stitch wide repeats are in for the various sections. We want to select zoom out and we want to select from the first section that we started, which is row 50. We're going to left click and drag all the way up and we want to Control C that area, and then we're going to select the rest of the empty cells down to the edge and Control V. And that's us now got all of our inputs where there will be contrast colour or colours, and the background colour remains empty. We'll move on to show how we do the conditional formatting for one colour contrast. We're ready now to complete the conditional formatting for the one contrast colour. So we're going to Format, Conditional Formatting, and we want to apply a range of all cells. So we're going to select this area here, and it says select a data range, OK. And we want to first choose our background colour. So we'll ask if the cell is empty, then format to these specifications. So our fill colour, we will do a dark grey. And then we can either press done or add another row. If we say done, and then select add another row, we have the same range selected. And this time we want to format the cells that are not empty, so the cells with any value that we entered. So if the cell is not empty, then we want to add our custom color. If none of the colors here match any of the yarn that you've chosen, then come down to custom and you can mess about here with the saturation of the color and then which hue on the color spectrum you'll be using. And when you're happy with the contrast color, press OK. That gets entered and select Done. So these are the two conditional formatting rules that we have in place for the one color contrast. Now we'll move on to the two color contrast. Moving on to conditional formatting for two colors, but you can add more colors in if you want. We're going to get rid of the cell is not empty portion here. And we're going to keep this if the cell is empty format rule for our background color. So we want to add another rule and select the full range. Okay. And we're going to format the cell if text contains, and we're going to put in a value of each area. So if the text contains a value of 1, we are going to format this, and I think we'll have a go at doing a rainbow style colouring in. So let's go red, and we want to add another rule, and if the text contains 2, we want orange. Add another rule. If the text contains 3, we want yellow. Add another rule. If the text contains 4, we want the fill colour to be green. Another rule for section 5. I just fill this up. Section 5, we want the fill colour to be blue. Add another rule for section 6, fill colour to be sort of, well, let's go indigo purple. Add another rule, and again we'll scroll up to the top here. If the text contains 7, we're going to go to violet. And the final rule for section 8, we want to fill this. Let's go with a white. No, not quite right. Let's go deep dark purple. And we don't need any other rules now, so we can select done, and you can see I have 8 colours here to fill in the entire punch card. Now to save you having to scroll, we can go to the print and select portrait, fit to page. Let's zoom out our page, and there you'll be able to see your colour choice, and you can just mess around if you think I don't like a certain colour. Cancel, come into the section where the colour is and change it out. And that's it for the conditional formatting function. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave a comment, and until the next time, you've been watching Buttonmouse the Machine Knitter.